Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman and Parker Kelly with you on this Titans Victory Monday. Only the second one of the year. Titans beat the Browns 31-29 yesterday in Cleveland. Titans improved to 2-11. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Parker, how was your weekend? We finally got to see another win.
We finally get to talk about a win. I was really happy. Some people were trying to take away my joy yesterday. Oh, the Titans, they just beat up on the Browns. They're one of the worst teams in the league. I don't care. The Titans played with a little bit of pride yesterday, and we get to talk about a win. And also, I heard there was some drama in the college football world.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. So no shortage of things to talk about today. I'm caffeinated, highly caffeinated. I'm ready to go.
Yes, it's going to be a loaded show today. Titans get a win. College football playoff bracket is revealed. And yes, you did just hear the 10 wins and you're in as an SEC school in the open. We're going to get that changed. But it's important to have it for today because we will talk about Vandy officially being left out. But the Titans get the win. And I know that's a bittersweet moment for a lot of Titans fans. We've talked about it. Do you want your team to win? Do you want your team to lose and get the number one pick? Titans have played their way out of the number one pick, at least for now. Titans are in line for the third pick as it stands right now, tied with the Giants and the Raiders. Those two teams do play later this season. So the Titans, if they lose out from here, are guaranteed to pick no lower than second. It's not the end of the world. And I think the Titans needed another win. They played pretty well yesterday, actually. They really did. I think I can confidently say that game went about as opposite of the way I expected it to as it possibly could have. I predicted on Friday there would be no offensive touchdowns in this game. I mean, to be fair, I think the total was 33.5 for this game, and they almost hit that in the first 25 minutes of the game. 60 points on the board in the snow in this game. Myles Garrett pretty much gets shut down except for the one sack. The Titans run the ball effectively. Mike McCoy in his post-game presser said that it was the most team rushing yards since 2022. Tony Pollard turns back the clock. That game went the complete opposite of the way I expected it to, and the Titans got a win. I will say I think it felt better when the team was up 31-17, and you're like, man, the Titans actually controlled this game, and there's more confidence. It's not great to back into the win the way that they did, right? I think there's less good vibes coming out of that, but you could tell that team needed a win. They get to come out on the winning side against the Browns, 31-29. I'm really not sure what the Browns were thinking with the 2-point conversion there at the end. And I like the call. We saw it with the Titans and Dolphins back in 2023, where you're down 14 with less than 5 minutes to go. The analytics tell you to go for 2, because if you just get one, you tie it. If you get the first one, you have a chance to win the game. Shedeur Sanders can't handle the snap on the first one. Cedric Gray almost took it back to the other end for 2 points. And then I don't understand with Shedeur Sanders having just led you down the field twice for touchdowns, pulling him out and putting the Wildcat in there and running whatever the hell that was that they ran for that 2-point conversion. But Kevin Stefanski's play didn't work out. Titans get to win 31-29.
Yeah, and it was hilarious because Shedeur actually played very, very good yesterday. So you want to put the ball in his hands to end the game. And I was sitting there watching that play, and I'm scratching my head. I'm like, I thought I wanted Stefanski as a head coach. Like, if the Browns ever fired him, I've come on this air and said, yeah, I'd love the Titans to go after him. But after that play call yesterday, I don't know. And then I heard his response to being asked about it after the game. And he, kept it close to the vest, didn't say anything. But my gosh, it was terrible.
I mean, Shedeur Sanders actually had a good answer to that of course I want the ball in my hands, but that was a play that we had repped in practice and had success with. I thought it was a good way to respond to it from Shedeur because, as we know, he can be a big personality and could have gone into the press conference and said, like, Kevin Stefanski lost the game for us by taking me out. I thought he had a good response to it, but yeah, that play obviously was not ideal. for the Browns, and the Titans will take it. 31-29 winners after they were able to run the clock out with the ball on the other side. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. It is a Reaction Monday, so we will take all of your thoughts. Our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Maybe the earliest call in our show's history. Keegan called in right as we started. What you got for us today, Keegan?
Oh, Jake, I got a lot for you today.
Go ahead.
Buddy. I had to call in first. I wanted to get a jump on it because there's so many good things to talk about. And then whenever we go to college football playoffs, it's just so chaotic over there. I love it as well. I want to agree with a lot of things. I love the fact that we won. We came out there, put some BTA in, the most Titans way possible by barely winning and almost losing the game. But at the same time, we dropped to third in draft position. As you said, Raiders and Giants play each other. That'll knock us up to second at the very least. That's still great positioning if you get two quarterbacks to go up. So you can't even be mad about that. Tony Pollard, a little personal history here. I was able to watch every home game of Tony Pollard's Memphis career. My family had season tickets. So huge Tony Pollard fan. I loved the game he had yesterday. It looked so great having that running game to go around Cam Ward. You see what can happen with an offense if you get some production from the running game. It's kind of amazing because we haven't seen it all year. But the one thing I want to talk about most, I believe, is yesterday I had to make a road trip, and I spent the majority of the Titans game listening on the radio. For the first time this season, listened a lot on the radio. I was actually surprised when I got home to see Cam Ward's stats like live on TV, because on the radio, I didn't think he was playing that bad, for only, 117 yards. I didn't think it was nearly that bad at all. I definitely thought Shadur was doing more in the game. Seemed like their offense had more passing production for sure. But after truly listening to the game, I listen as much as I possibly can. And I've only come to one final conclusion that should put it all to bed. I think Trey is on the type of drugs that you have to go behind the gas station to get, not in the gas station. You got to go in that nasty dark alley behind it to get that. And that's where he's coming up with a lot of his things, because Cam Ward doesn't sound like no get him out of the league loser to me. He sounded like he was doing his job pretty well. But that's all I got. It's such a great day. So many good things to talk about. And I just had to throw that out there. I'll leave it up to you guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the call, Keegan. So you're saying that Taylor Zarzer does not basically just call Cam a bust for 3 hours on the broadcast like Trey implies. We haven't heard from Trey in a couple of days. We'll see if Trey calls in today. But yeah, we're going to talk about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders coming up in the next segment, because I know that was the big story that comes out of the game. You've got those two rookie quarterbacks playing each other. There's always going to be comparisons. We're going to talk about it. But I thought he made a good point about Tony Pollard. That is a really impressive game for Tony Pollard. Now, I will apologize because like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was ready for Tony Pollard to just ride the bench the rest of the way. He didn't look explosive. He wasn't making plays. Yes, the offensive line wasn't great, but he was kind of just, you hand it off, you're going to get 2 to 3 yards. And that was it for Tony Pollard. So I was really impressed. The breakaway speed there on that 65-yard touchdown, really well done from Tony Pollard yesterday. 2 long touchdown runs, a career-high 165 yards. Got to shout out Tony Pollard, because it did not look like he was ever going to find that type of burst again, and he had a great day. Large reason why the Titans were able to win.
And if you watched NFL Red Zone, the Tony Pollard 65-yard touchdown was actually the 4th play of the day in the top 5.
Wow.
So Tony Pollard looked phenomenal yesterday. I feel like he desperately needed that game, because Cam Ward was not fantastic yesterday. He certainly didn't play to the level that Shedeur Sanders did, but the Titans' run game was there, and it was very, very good, and the blocking was very good.
Yeah.
So that helped get them over the hump.
Yeah,
he needed that.
We will talk more about the offensive line later in the show too, but shout out Corey Levin. I mean, this is 2 weeks in a row where Corey Levin has stepped in for Lloyd Cushenberry at center, and I have noticed him, right? You don't notice the center all that often, but in the run game, Corey Levin has been great. He had the big block that really sprung Tony Pollard on that play. So I think the offensive line is starting to play a little bit better. They were able to slow down Myles Garrett enough yesterday. So well done to the offensive line. Well done to Tony Pollard putting up a career-high 165 yards. 615-737-1025. Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam from Portland is called in. Adam, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
I like Trey's calls, dude. I think you need to run a poll on your website and be like, do you disagree or do you agree with Trey? I agree with Trey on almost everything he says. Like, and I know some people think I'm crazy too, but it's like this dude's a passionate fan, man. That's all it is. But not what I called you about. I think, dude, the game yesterday that they played is the type of game they should have been playing the whole way. I do think we notice our linemen all the time, so I disagree with you there, but it's for the worst
Yes,
ways.
I meant in a good way.
The fact that we make everybody look elite, and then you find the most elite pass rusher ever, and we hold him to one. Really was a covered sack. Like I thought they were great. Yes, I don't know what happened yesterday. It's my birthday yesterday, Jake. So
Happy birthday, Adam.
I think they did it for me. That's what I said on the early show. But it was an incredible ball game from them. And no, don't get mad if they drop a couple positions in the draft. You know that the Giants aren't taking a quarterback, and you won the matchup with Oakland. It's still going to work out. You should be able to get a haul still. You know, I'm glad we won a game. I'm tired of being miserable. I'm glad we won a game.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Adam.
Happy birthday, Adam.
Yes,
happy belated birthday.
Happy belated birthday. The Titans were going to have to win another game. I don't think you can go into the offseason 1-16, having lost your last 12, and feel good about that. They needed to get another win for this team to have any kind of momentum going into the offseason. Now, if you do lose the next 4, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Again, you lose the next 4, you are guaranteed to pick no lower than second. And the Giants and Raiders, as bad as they've been, they do play each other. One of those teams has to win. And then the Giants still play Washington, who may be without Jaden Daniels again for the rest of the year after he got hurt yesterday. I think there's still a chance the Titans can still get to the number 1 pick, but they really, really needed to get another win under their belt just for the confidence, the mental health of that locker room heading into the offseason. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mondays were made for Macero, big screens, bold flavors, and all the football action. From queso to kickoffs, this is how Macero does game night. Macero Football Mondays in 12 South. Don't miss a snap. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders played against each other head-to-head yesterday, and we've got to talk about the way they played. Shedeur Sanders pretty clearly played a better game yesterday, and we will talk about what that means coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. That was Cam Ward after the game yesterday. Pleased with the win, but obviously was not a perfect game from the Titans, but beggars can't be choosers. Titans will take the win. They are 2-11 now on the season. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Getting in the Christmas spirit on this Monday morning. Only a little over 2 weeks away. Crazy. But the Titans, they had Christmas come early. I don't know if they're going to get themselves another win the rest of the year, but nice to break what was a 7-game losing streak at that point, and finally get back in the win column. But Cam Ward yesterday, he had his moments. He was not great. I think he was better than he played a week ago against the Jaguars, which may have been his worst game of the season. Cam came out of the gates playing pretty well. I mean, that first drive, yes, they relied on Tony Pollard a good amount, and there was a little dump-off pass to Tajay Spears in there. But the touchdown pass to Alec Iamaner was nice, moving to his left, made an accurate throw for the touchdown. And then from there on out, it was really inconsistent from Cam Ward. The throw to Chimdike for the touchdown, that's from the opposite hash. He had to put some mustard on it to get it there and put it right on the money. That was great. The throw to Van Jefferson that was dropped on third down where, hit him in the hands over the shoulder. Beautiful throw on the seam route, gets dropped. But then you had some throws. Chimdike down the field, wide open. Cam Ward, yes, there was pressure in his face, but that's a throw that you really have to hit at the NFL level. Some other inaccurate throws.
The one to Van Jefferson that was behind.
Right. The over the middle on third down. It was not a good game for Cam Ward yesterday. Was it a horrible game? No, but it was not a good game. And when you're watching that game between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, who most of last year leading up to the draft, they were considered the top 2 quarterbacks in the draft. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders ended up falling, but those two guys were considered 1 and 2 for most of the college football season last year and most of the draft season last year. And Shedeur Sanders played better yesterday. I think it's pretty obvious to say that. You watch the game, both guys made mistakes. And I think Shedeur's mistakes actually were a large reason why the Browns ended up losing, right? Like, that interception was horrible. I mean, you get back there in the pocket, you evade Jeffrey Simmons once, do the smart thing, and find a way to dirt that ball. Instead, he just lobs it up middle of the field into double coverage, and Xavier Woods intercepts it. Horrible play. But Shedeur Sanders overall looked pretty good yesterday. He had some throws that, I was obviously I'm watching the game. I'm rooting for the Titans quarterback to play better, right? And Shedeur Sanders had a few plays where I was like, man, that shouldn't have been picked in the 5th round. So Shedeur Sanders had a nice job proving himself yesterday, but there was also some rookie mistakes in there, as you'd expect. But you also have to take into account the defenses that they were playing and the game situations that they were in. I mean, the Browns have the number 2 defense in the league, and Cam Ward had Myles Garrett on the other side all day. Jeffrey Simmons had a really good day yesterday, but that Titans defense as a whole is not close to what the Browns have. Like, look at the cornerbacks the Titans are running out there. Again, Shedeur Sanders still had to put accurate balls on his receivers. The throw to Jerry Jeudy, threw into an open window with anticipation, 60-yard touchdown. But he was running against Darrell Baker. Maybe he's not that wide open if you have a starting level NFL cornerback in the league. So overall, yes, Shedeur Sanders played better yesterday. You do have to take into account the defenses that they were playing. And, the stats probably don't tell a ton of the story because Shedeur was playing from behind for most of the game. They fell behind early 14-3.
Which means they have to throw more.
Right. And then at the end of the game, you're down 14 points. They were just, trying to get it down the field as fast as possible.
Shedeur Sanders threw the ball 42 times yesterday because they were trailing for a large majority. They were down 14-3 at the end of the first quarter yesterday. Cam Ward threw the ball 28 times. And the defense, that has to be taken to account as well. Now, if you're just looking at the box score, this is how it can be deceiving because the Browns only recorded 1 sack yesterday. That was the Myles Garrett sack. Yeah. Meanwhile, the Titans were able to get to Shedeur Sanders, get him on the ground twice, but there are also pressures and
he had the intentional grounding.
The defenders getting in and throwing late. So you have all these different things that if you're just looking at the box score, that would make you think that Shedeur is the better quarterback. Now, he did look better yesterday than Cam. There's no denying that, but it is one game.
Yeah, and I think that's what you can say. You look at the box score and you'll see all these graphics posted yesterday and today of just the straight up box score of what Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders did. And you look at that and you're going to say, man, Shedeur Sanders totally and completely outplayed Cam Ward. Now you watch the game and you watch the film and you can say Shedeur Sanders did play better than Cam Ward, but it wasn't to the extent that the stats may tell you. I was impressed by Shedeur Sanders yesterday. And I had kind of thought that he was going to get 4 or 5 games here at the end of the year just to see what they had, and they were going to draft a quarterback early in next year's draft. I think Shedeur Sanders, a game like that, makes you at least consider the idea of giving him next year as the starting quarterback. And he's clearly a talented guy. Shedeur Sanders made some really accurate throws yesterday. I mean, the touchdown to David Njoku could not have been run out there any better. The Harold Fannin throw down the sideline, that was just beautiful. Pressure in his face, and he dropped it in the bucket. Shedeur Sanders looked good yesterday, and I think he's going to get an opportunity to be the Browns starting quarterback next year. But again, as you said, it is one game, and one game does not determine whether these guys are going to be franchise quarterbacks moving forward. Both of them have a lot of work to do. Shedeur Sanders had some horrible mistakes yesterday. Cam Ward was inaccurate. These are things that are going to have to they're going to have to work on these in the offseason and develop and see what they can do at the beginning next year. But I do think Shedeur Sanders was solid. I really think that he was a good quarterback against a bad defense. But I think it was a little bit overblown. Like, were you listening to Mark Schlereth on the broadcast yesterday of don't play man against Shedeur Sanders? He's going to tear you up. I'm like, all right, well, like, yes, he's looking good and he's beaten man coverage a couple of times, but did Shedeur Sanders really, is he that scary of a quarterback that you just say, oh, we can't run man coverage against Shedeur Sanders? He's not Tom Brady. He is not Tom Brady. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Mike on the text line says, you were impressed by a rookie quarterback who sent the ball 340 some yards against backyard cornerbacks, but couldn't score a touchdown. Well, he threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for another. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Shedeur Sanders looked good yesterday again, but it's one game and we will see how these things pan out the rest of the way. Cam Ward has some work to do. The consistency is just not good enough from Cam Ward right now. And I think that's something that you may not see until next year. Right now, it looks like with the coaching that he has, with the supporting cast around him, you're not going to see him put together a couple of games back to back where he looks like the guy you drafted him to be. There's not enough good players around him. And as much as Mike McCoy and Nick Holtz and Bo Hardigree, I'm sure they're trying their best. That's not a coaching staff that is going to be able to develop a young quarterback like the Titans need them to. I thought it was funny yesterday. They kept referring to Bo Hardigree as the offensive coordinator. And I was like, not quite.
I mean, the national people have no idea who Nick Holtz
I mean,
is.
it's like they come in and they get to speak to the play caller, I'm sure, and not the offensive coordinator. And so they were just like, yeah, let's call Bo Hardigree the offensive coordinator. Just shows you the dysfunction that's gone on in this franchise this season. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. DVD with Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan will be broadcasting live at the all-new Circa Sportsbook Kentucky in the Mint Gaming Hall today, prior to the Monday Night Football game. Tonight's matchup is the Eagles taking on the Chargers. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. We will continue this conversation on the other side. Cam Ward's deep ball accuracy is starting to get a little bit concerning. Some of the throws yesterday weren't just off, but a couple of them weren't even close. We'll talk about it coming up next. Next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Preds fans, Smashville Live returns Wednesday night at 6 p.m. on 102.5 The Game, live from Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue. Meet your Predators players up close and personal, and also get autographs and pictures. Preds player guests this Wednesday night are Luke Evangelista and Ozzy Weisblatt. That's this Wednesday night at Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue, and only on 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday morning. Titans get the win yesterday, 2-11 now on the season. It is funny for some people out there, that was the worst possible scenario for the Titans yesterday, of they win the game and hurt their draft status, and Shedeur Sanders looked better than Cam Ward. I think if you asked a lot of Titans fans what their ideal game would have been yesterday, it's, hey, Cam Ward looks way better than Shedeur Sanders, but, you know, a special teams touchdown or a scoop and score touchdown or something gets the win for the Browns late in like a 13-10 rock fight. Like, I think that was kind of the ideal scenario of Cam Ward looks pretty good, but the Titans still lose. Ended up being the opposite. Shedeur Sanders looked better than Cam Ward, and the Titans end up winning 2-11 now on the season after the 31-29 victory. For Cam Ward, I still believe in the talent, right? Like he's got the arm talent. I think he's got the mental makeup to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. And you got to bring in a coach who can develop him. That is job number one once the season ends. I mean, you've got 4 more games to get through, and then it goes into, can you find the right coach for this locker room? And is that guy the right coach for Cam Ward? If not, you go find the guy who is to be his offensive coordinator, right? Like, obviously, if you bring in Robert Saleh, that's not the guy who's going to develop Cam Ward, but he has to have a plan for who that guy is, because that's the most important thing this offseason, is building around Cam Ward and developing those traits that you see that lead to all of these flashes, but hasn't led to enough consistency. And that's what we've been talking about all year with Cam Ward, is the consistency has not been good. He puts together a good quarter or a good drive or a good half, and then it kind of falls apart for a little bit, and then you'll see it pop up again. There needs to be more consistency from Cam Ward. And I don't think there's anything that portrays that better than Cam Ward's deep ball. There are times when he makes a throw down the field, like the throw to Calvin Ridley at the end of the Cardinals win. That ball down the sideline was perfect, with a defender hitting him, and he made a perfect throw. We saw it on the touchdown against the Patriots to Chim Dike. There have been many, many throws from Cam Ward this year where you're saying, wow, I cannot believe he just did that. But you missed some of the easy ones too. Not saying the Chim Dike one yesterday was an easy one, but when your receiver gets behind the defense like that and he is that open, it's got to be 7 points. You've got to be able to put that ball on him. And I understand, you watch the replay, Cam Ward got crushed on that play. It is not an easy throw, but that is a throw. If you are going to be a high-level quarterback in this league, that's the throw. You've got to stand in there and at least give your wide receiver a chance. And he missed him by probably 3 or 4 yards.
Yeah, and I was texting with a couple people yesterday, and we were talking about rookie quarterbacks, and I've talked with Teron about this a lot, TD, about how the worst thing for Cam Ward's development is seeing how C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels were able to come into the league and have instant success right away. But now we're seeing with C.J. Stroud, he took a sophomore slump. He's finally getting back into form in year 3. Jaden Daniels hasn't been healthy enough this year for us to get a good gauge on what he is and what he can become. We think we have a pretty good idea, but for Cam Ward, in this microwave society that we live in, whatever he does the rest of the year, not much is going to change my mind. I've seen some throws. I've seen what I need to see to believe that he's going to be the franchise future. Now, that's not solidified or anything like that, but we can't be so quick to rush to the decision that he is a bust or he's not going to work out.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams in year 2, I still have all the confidence in the world that Caleb Williams is going to be a good NFL quarterback. He still hasn't taken all the steps that he needs to, but we are seeing, I watched the Bears versus the Packers yesterday. He's making some throws that only a few quarterbacks in the NFL can make.
That throw he made into the end zone.
Yeah.
Went
to Zacchaeus.
Was it a good throw, or was he lucky that the defender didn't
Maybe
catch
a little
it
bit of
first?
both.
But a little bit of both, but it was put right where it needed to be.
But the throw to Cole Kmet before that on the same drive.
Right.
There are not many quarterbacks in the NFL that can make that throw.
Yeah.
Now, Caleb Williams is still far from where he is projected to be or where people thought he should be, but he's taking steps, and he's on year 2. So we got to be slow with this process.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's no way to tell whether Cam Ward is the guy or isn't the guy after this season. I've seen enough to at least give him one more year to prove it, right? If he plays all 17 games this year and he at least continues to play like this, and then he plays all 17 games next year and still doesn't take that step forward, then I think you have the conversation about, all right, is this guy the long-term answer for us? But seeing people out there, and this isn't just Titans fans, but national people saying, oh, the Titans should take a quarterback in the first round this year. Like, if they have a chance to take Fernando Mendoza, they should do it. Fernando Mendoza isn't a better quarterback prospect than Cam Ward is or was coming out of college. And you don't use a pick of that high capital in back-to-back years on a quarterback. This team has so many other needs, and they need playmakers. They need stars, and you can't waste a top 2 pick on a quarterback back-to-back years because the best thing you can do is build around Cam Ward and hope that when you give him more, that he becomes a better player. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Kyle on the text line says, ultimately, I agree with you, but if he had stepped into that throw more, then he likely doesn't even get the throw off and it gets destroyed. No, I agree with you. I'm not saying that it was an easy throw, but it's one that you got to give your wide receiver a chance on. Like, maybe you miss a little bit less and Chimdike makes a diving catch. It's not a touchdown like it probably could have been, but you got to at least give your wide receiver a chance. And he's had too many throws down the field where he just misses the guy by 3, 4, 5 yards. I mean, there was a throw down the sideline. I'm not sure if it was open. I think it was Prochet running down the sideline. And like the ball went 5 yards over the sideline and out of bounds. Like, it's like he was throwing the ball away, and I don't think he was. Those are the kinds of throws that he at least needs to give his wide receiver a chance on. Dave in Hendersonville says, keep in mind, Cam Ward does not have a coach. And that's 100% true. That's why I don't think you can make any final judgments or any big sweeping declarations about Cam Ward this year, because his head coach gave up play calling 3 games in, then got fired 3 games later. And you've been stuck with this skeleton crew of guys who are just coaching for their next job that aren't going to be around to develop you in the future. And also, you have maybe the worst wide receiver core in the league. Nothing against Chimdike and Alec Iamaner and these guys, but once Calvin Ridley got hurt, you've got a lot of inexperience or lack of talent out there on the field with you. Like DK and Iamaner, I think, have talent, but they don't have a ton of experience. Van Jefferson's a fine player, but outside of that, it's a bunch of undrafted guys. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dustin from Hopkinsville is called in. Dustin, what you got for us today?
Good morning. Parker took a nice shot at me when I called, so I'll just go ahead. Maybe not word for word it, but he asked me about my Kentucky Wildcat. And as a guy at quarterback once said, and the verdict's still out on him, we asked. Okay? So that's out of the way.
I'm sorry,
All
Dustin.
right.
I was at the game, and they got absolutely undressed, and I had to bring it up. I'm so sorry.
Man, when somebody gets beat like that with our kind of name, is it really even fun to watch?
No, I left at halftime.
There you go. See, you did the right thing. Good for you. Anyway, so listen, when I say this, I'm not taking the Trey stance. I'm still not in or out on where I have his back. That's where I'm at. And he's a young quarterback in a bad situation. But we are making a lot of excuses for Cam Ward, and the deep ball, the inaccuracy with one of the fastest guys in the NFL with the most all-purpose yards with great hands gets overthrown about once a game, sometimes twice. I believe he had a bunch of inaccuracy yesterday.
Yep.
And buddy, Shadur Sanders, like the best situation that could have happened for a guy, in my opinion, and people I say what I mean, or I mean what I say what I mean. I just say I don't care what you think. Shadur Sanders' humility was lacking, and he probably got the best slap in the face in the 5th round and it's good for the kid. I promise. Because all I know is if I watch the two players for the first time yesterday, I don't like his attitude, but I can grow to like it because I'm taking Shadur Sanders if yesterday is the only eye test I get. Dude was accurate. He was quick. Even when he rotates his head through his reach, it's fast, it's crisp, his footwork's great. I'm sorry, but I think Cleveland's got their quarterback. I'm not, I can't say that. It's only 3 games, but then again, the man's only had first team reps with 2 or 3 games. Like Cam Ward's had 13. Like where you give Cam Ward credit, like you don't have to go ahead and give the torch to Shadur. He outplayed him yesterday. I don't care if it's in garbage time. If he had to throw, he had to throw the ball. You know what he did? He threw the damn ball.
No, I agree with you. I think Shadur Sanders looked good yesterday, and I was not expecting it.
And in my opinion, if you look at the 2 defenses yesterday, other than maybe a few, our corners actually played really good. They made some plays in the air, man coverage here and there that I was impressed with. They're young. They're not going to be out here just going off. Like they're got to be taught. And all I know is Mike McCoy has won a game without the other team imploding, in my opinion. Like, he's not great. He's very conservative. That sucks. Like, but I mean, we won a game, and it wasn't because somebody dropped the ball at the 1 yard line. So
no, it's a good point. The Titans did play well enough to win the game yesterday, which is probably the first time you can say that this year. Because the Cardinals game, they needed about every break they possibly could get to have a chance to come back in that one.
I'll say this, and then I'll let y'all have it. Cam Moore's got 4 games to impress, to get consistent. It's crunch time. I know he gets the season next year, but he can control this narrative in the last 4 games. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks for the call, Dustin. And it's true. Cam Ward, I think, needs to have one more game this season where he has a complete game, right? I think that's the right way to put it. They don't have to win the game, but he has to go out there and have a game where, like the Seahawks game, have another game like that where Titans fans can say, all right, we've seen it again. We can head into the offseason with a little bit of momentum. He can't just play the way he has the last 2 weeks for the last 4 and expect people not to be upset, right? Like, right or wrong, Titans fans are split on Cam Ward right now. They are. There are a lot of Titans fans who are in the Cam Ward can do no wrong. It's never his fault. There are people that every time Cam Ward makes one mistake, they're going to bounce on it like a bunch of vultures. Like, I think there are a lot of people in the middle, but those are the 2 loudest groups among the Titans fan base right now. And if you continue to be inconsistent and not be able to put together a complete game towards the end of the year, I think the other side of that is going to continue to get louder. But Shadur Sanders looked good yesterday. I wouldn't go as far as Dustin to say that Cleveland has found their quarterback. He's got to be able to show more moving forward, but I thought yesterday was a good day for Shadur Sanders, and it was pretty clear that he played better. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones. Some good thoughts on the text line as well. Going over the Titans, 31-29 win over the Browns. It is Your Reaction Monday. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to chime in. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Join Chase and Big Joe today from noon to 3 at Duncan, located at 4930 Thoroughbred Lane in Brentwood. Stop by with a stuffed toy and donate it to a child this holiday season. 1025 The Game has teamed up with Nashville Children's Alliance to give all of these awesome stuffed toys donated by you just for stopping by. You'll be qualified for a 4-pack of tickets in the all-inclusive 501 Club at Bridgestone Arena to a Preds home game. A special thanks to the Metro Nashville Police Department, the Catalano Group, the Bluemont Group, Family Leisure, Thompson Machinery, Richmar Florist, Right Time HVAC, and Relodyne. For more information and a list of Duncan locations that you can donate a stuffed toy, visit thegamenashville.com/toy. And we will be giving away a couple of Preds tickets later on in the show as well. But let's go back to our phone lines here, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. T-Mac in Murfreesboro is on the line. T-Mac, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say this for everybody who's like jumping on Cam Ward because Shedeur played better yesterday. This is the way I feel. So even when those two was coming out of the draft, we all knew that with Shedeur Sanders, his style was a little more polished, right? He's like, what you see is what you get. We knew that Cam Ward was a little more raw. You know, he's a little more improvising, a little more, Patrick Mahomes-y. And I feel like the rawness of Cam Ward is going to take time because of how his playing style is. So I'm not surprised that Shedeur came out and had the game that he had because, like I said, he's a little more polished, and what you see is what you get. Here's what I'm saying. When it's all said and done, once Cam Ward gets comfortable, I do think because of his rawness, he's going to have more wow factor to his game. He's still trying to figure that out right now. And I do think Cam Ward's ceiling is going to be higher, meaning he's going to wow you more rather than Shedeur. I don't think his game is going to get – of course he's going to get better, but when they're both at their peak, I do still think that Cam Ward is going to have more flash to his game. And I want to hang up and listen and see what you guys have to say about that.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the call. You draft Cam Ward number 1 overall because you think his ceiling is high. And we've said it before on this show. I think Mike Borgonzi saw a little Patrick Mahomes in his game, the off-schedule backyard plays. But again, the reason Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes and has won 3 Super Bowls is because he does the little things at quarterback on a consistent basis. That is what you're waiting on from Cam Ward. Cam Ward can make the off-schedule, off-platform, SportsCenter top 10 plays all he wants. But if he can't start to be more accurate consistently, he's not going to be a franchise quarterback. You're betting on the ability of your coaching staff and your front office to put the situation around him and develop him so that he can become, again, Patrick Mahomes is a very high ceiling, and odds are he will never even get close to being Patrick Mahomes. But there's only one. There's only one. So saying that he can be Patrick Mahomes is not realistic. But those are the traits Mike Borgonzi saw of the off-platform, off-schedule plays that Cam Ward makes. If you can develop the rest of his game, he can be that impact player that you need in the AFC to make the Super Bowl. Like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. I mentioned all the time. If you're going to make the Super Bowl in the AFC, you need someone who can compete with those guys. And Mike Borgonzi believed in the ceiling of Cam Ward. Even though, yes, Shedeur Sanders right now may be more consistently accurate than Cam Ward, the ceiling is much higher for Cam Ward, and that's what they're betting on moving forward.
I agree with the caller because I remember coming out of the draft, TD and I would talk about how Shedeur is a little bit more pro-ready now than Cam Ward, but Cam Ward's ceiling is so much higher than Shedeur Sanders. The problem is the organization going to be patient enough? Now, yeah. I think Mike Borgonzi, he's earned the benefit of the doubt with the guys that he's drafted. So let's continue to see how things look going forward. The problem is this is not college because Miami went from being a borderline bowl eligible team to implementing Cam Ward and now on the outside looking in at the playoffs. So that can happen in college, but this is the NFL and you got pros all around you. The truth is he needs more. He needs more around him. Shedeur doesn't have a group of superstars around him, but he has more than Cam has to work with.
Yep.
So that's the excuse that I'm making today.
And Mike Borgonzi came in, took this job, and immediately tied his career to Cam Ward. So any idea that he is going to move on from Cam Ward quickly is irrelevant. Cam Ward is going to be the quarterback of the future for this team. That is what they believe in. And he will be given every opportunity to prove he can be the franchise quarterback until he proves that he's not. 615-737-1025. Back to the phone lines. Our friend Ethan, the intern, who is with us in studio a couple days a week. Ethan, what you got for us today?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
I want to talk about the Titans O-line seemingly holding like Myles Garrett. I guess you could say quiet with the one sack that he did have throughout the game. And I know the O-line for the Titans have been kind of the question throughout the year. What's your opinion on the Titans O-line from yesterday's game?
Yeah, they were great. To hold Myles Garrett the way they did to what was it? The lowest pressure rate of his career, second lowest pressure rate of his career. It's impressive. And we challenged J.C. Latham. We challenged this offensive line last week to take it personally that everybody thinks that they're going to give up 4 sacks and the single season sack record. Like they have to take that personally and go out there and play with a chip on their shoulder. And I thought they did. They executed the game plan well. And Myles Garrett only getting 1 sack. That's about as good as you can hope to do against a player of that caliber.
Yeah, and they were seemingly helping out the run game. Do you think the run game being so consistent with Tony Pollard opened up maybe some of the air game for Cam Ward in yesterday's game?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the run game was that's the best that we've seen it this year, obviously. But, Cam ended up, completing 50% of his passes, a little over 100 yards. I mean, it wasn't a great day for Cam Ward statistically, but I do think that establishing that run game at least helped the Titans. You put up 30 points for the first time this year, and a lot of that had to do with the ability to run the football.
Well, that's all I have for you guys. I just want to call in and see what your takes on the offensive line was yesterday.
Awesome. Thank you, Ethan. Appreciate the call.
Thank you for the Shipleys as well. Still thinking about those.
We got a couple more callers. Let's try and get you guys in before we break here. Let's go to Rick on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for taking my call. And you touched on something that's so important about who is around Cam. And then you bring up Patrick Mahomes all the time. Everybody does. Well, just look at what Patrick Mahomes is doing this year.
Yeah.
Not much. And here's the best quarterback we've seen in the game for years and years and years. Well, what's happened to him? He doesn't have the receivers he used to have. He doesn't have any kind of a running game. And he doesn't have the front line. His offensive line isn't what it used to be. And the defense isn't stopping people the way they used to be. All right? And so Mahomes looks rather average. Now, this is Patrick Mahomes I'm talking about. And so here we criticize, and we have every right to, a young quarterback like this. But look, this guy has no offensive line. He's got just a bunch of young receivers that have talent, but they're not there yet. The defense has been sometimes horrible, sometimes okay. And so I think it's a friggin' miracle that we are seeing the positive signs that we've seen in Cam. One of them is his absolute attitude, his winning attitude, and boys follow me, has not changed one bit. And then the last thing I'd like to add, game before last, they threw up on the television screen 5 pictures of quarterbacks that were the number 1 picks in like the last 5 or 6, 7 years, something like that. And you know what the winning record was of every one of those quarterbacks? Either 1 game or 2 games.
Yep.
Every one of them. And so that's all I'm saying. I think this young man pretty much has the goods, but he's going to have everything that all of these other great quarterbacks have. And I'm sort of sick and tired. Well, you got to make people better around you. That's a bunch of crap. You can lead people around you to maybe do things that they thought they couldn't once in a while. But no, if you have a great quarterback and he has a bunch of average players, trust me, no quarterback on this planet is going to make them superstars. So that's all I got to say, guys.
Thanks for the call, Rick. Very good points there Mahomes, they're 6-7 right now. And you can go pick out any quarterback you want, greatest quarterbacks of all time, and find really bad decisions and bad throws that they make. Cam Ward, all of his mistakes get nitpicked a lot, and there have to be better, right? Like he does have to improve, but I feel like there's just a willingness from a lot of fans out there to just pile on anytime Cam Ward makes a mistake. 615-737-1025. We do have to take a break. We're going to get into the college football playoff bracket coming up next. We do have the 12-team bracket. Vanderbilt not in it. We'll discuss that coming up next. Jake Kleiman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Titans get the win, 31-29. Lots of Titans talk in the first hour. We'll get back into the two-tone blue later in the show, but big news yesterday, we got the 12-team college football playoff bracket, and there was some controversy there. We will get into that, but you did hear in the open, hopefully for one of the last times, 10 wins is an SEC school. And
I talked to Chase, and that will change.
I believe it's going to change. Yes, Chase came in here and talked to me about it too. So I believe we are going to get that out of there because for the first time, it's not true in this 12-team college football playoff bracket. And I still stand by that statement, which I made in July, by the way. That was when that clip is from. That most years as a 10-win SEC school, you're going to be in. This year, there were just too many good teams. And with Vanderbilt being left out, Vanderbilt comes in at 14th once again in the final college football playoff rankings. The part that disappoints me the most is it felt like the committee didn't even consider Vanderbilt. Right? Like, it felt like they put them where they did in the rankings. They let Miami jump over them with a win over NC State. They let Texas jump over them with 3 losses. And they just basically said, yeah, Vanderbilt had a good season. They're not getting in. And Miami and Notre Dame is going to be the big argument that gets put out there. And I guess you could put Alabama in there too after losing the SEC championship game. But if you compare Vanderbilt, Miami, and Notre Dame's resumes, they're really not all that different. Like you look at Notre Dame and Vanderbilt, both of them have quality losses. You can't take anything away from those teams based on their losses. Vanderbilt lost 2 road games against Alabama and Texas. Notre Dame lost 2 razor-thin games against Miami and Texas A&M, who are playing each other in the college football playoff now. So you have to look at the wins. Vanderbilt's wins are very comparable to Notre Dame's wins at the top, like USC and Tennessee. I know Tennessee isn't in the rankings anymore, but the best wins are the same.
But they're not because Vanderbilt beat them, so let's not forget that,
right.
CFP committee.
That's true. Vanderbilt beat them, so therefore they can't be a good team in the logic of the College Football Playoff Committee. And if you look further down the list of wins for Vanderbilt versus Notre Dame, like Vandy's wins at Virginia Tech and at South Carolina, yeah, like those teams didn't end up being very good, but those are tough environments. Is that harder than beating Purdue and Arkansas? Not really. And then Miami had the best win of all of those teams, right? Like they beat Notre Dame, and that is an impressive win. That is why they are going to be in the college football playoff. But they also lost to SMU and Louisville at home. I think the committee did not even put those 3 teams next to each other and make a decision. I think they just said, Vanderbilt, you're close, but not close enough, and put them out. I think if you made a real comparison of those 3 teams, it's a lot closer than you think. And if you still left Vanderbilt out in that instance, I can understand it. Vanderbilt does not have the marquee win of Miami, and Notre Dame, if you're going to go by the eye test, has just lit everybody up for the last 2 months. But it just felt like there was no consideration given to Vanderbilt, which is disappointing.
So Miami is going to the reason they got in yesterday was because of the head-to-head win over Notre Dame. So there were things that Miami could have done, like not lose to SMU when you're a double-digit favorite,
right.
Not lose to Louisville when you're a touchdown favorite, to kind of get rid of this controversy. Notre Dame, they could have won against Texas A&M. They could have won against Miami.
Yeah.
In week 1, Vanderbilt's more so was a product of scheduling, I think, because when you play in a tough SEC, the game against Alabama was a lot closer than the score indicated. The one against Texas was probably not as close. It was just a tough draw. It was a really tough draw. And even if you move Vanderbilt up a couple of spots, I still don't think that is good enough based on the committee's criteria of putting the 5 highest ranked conference champions in, which I want to talk about later, Jake, because I have a bone to pick.
Yeah, we are going to get into the full bracket, which has been released, but I wanted to start with Vanderbilt there. Ricky on the text line asked, do you think Vandy beats Notre Dame? Truthfully, no, I don't. I think Notre Dame Notre Dame, if they got in,
No.
they had a chance to go win the whole thing.
Notre Dame could contend for a national
Right.
championship, and they're not going to get the chance.
Notre Dame was good enough to go win the whole thing, but it's not about it's again. I've said this over and over and over on the show. If it's about who you think wins on a neutral field, then just let Vegas pick the 12 teams.
Yeah, just go off of power ratings.
Right. Just say, all right, this team would be favored over this team. You're seeded 1 and go on all the way down through 12. That's not how it works. It's about resumes. And I think if you stack up Vanderbilt's resume, it's a lot closer than the committee was making it seem with Notre Dame and Miami. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines. Keegan has called back in. Keegan, thanks for the call. What you got?
The man.
Hey, thank you, Parker. I appreciate that, man. I won't lie. I called in about the Titans on the last segment. We went to break. Everything's changed since then. But I still got opinions on the college football playoffs.
There you go.
Through this. My biggest thing, I know a lot of talk will be about Vandy and obviously the trio of Alabama, Notre Dame, and Miami. But I got to say, I love the fact that Notre Dame did not get into the playoffs. I agree. I believe they could compete for a national championship. They are talented enough to do so. But what I don't like about it in general is the fact that they try so hard to stay independent. And so they want new rules created just for them. They don't want to have to play by the rules teams like Vanderbilt has to play by, teams like Miami has to play by being boxed into a conference. They can schedule who they want. I mean, I even pulled up their schedule here to look at it. They got wins over Boston College. They got wins over Purdue. They beat Arkansas. At the time, they beat a really bad Boise State team. So it's like their resume doesn't really give them a reason to be in the playoffs. Now, their talent, absolutely, national champion level talented team. But their resume, no way. But the fact that I believe I saw they signed a college football playoff clause for next year. If they're in the top 12 next year, they get an automatic bid to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous. What are we doing here? Like, you're not facing any competition. You're not scheduling the strongest schedule you can schedule. And you're not going through a conference the same way every other playoff contender is. You want to stay over in your own little world, your independent world, and you want new rules made for you. Now, I love the idea of independence, but if that's how you're going to play the game and get new rules created instead of playing by the rules everyone else plays by, hey, leave them out of the playoffs. What do they deserve? What have they earned? They're not playing good, friendly ball with us. Get out of the playoffs. I have no issue with that whatsoever. So, everything changed. I had to throw a Notre Dame opinion out there, but I'll let you guys have that one.
Yeah, thanks for that, Keegan. And I did see that. It was Yahoo Sports reported that Notre Dame signed a memorandum of acknowledgement or something like that, basically saying that next year, if they are in the top 12 at the end, they get an automatic bid. So if the rankings were the same as they were this year, Notre Dame would automatically have bumped Miami no matter what the committee said, which is ridiculous because Notre Dame controls their entire schedule. Just schedule 12 cupcakes then. A 12-0 Notre Dame team is going to be in the top 12. So it's ridiculous. 615-737-1025. We are going to talk about the decision the committee made yesterday at the back of the bracket. Alabama, Miami, Notre Dame. That's the way they ended up seeding them. We will also get to your phone. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly. Getting in the Christmas spirit with you on this Reaction Monday. Titans get the win 31-29 over the Browns yesterday. They are 2-11, snap a 7-game losing streak. And we got a 12-team college football playoff bracket, which we are getting into now. Before we get into the Miami and Notre Dame decision, let's go back to our phone lines. Got some callers waiting patiently. Edward has been waiting on the line. Edward, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Good morning, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you great.
I think this can be simplified a little bit more on this college selections. You know, they kept showing to the committee sitting around watching the games. I don't know if you noticed Chris Massaro on the back row, the AD at MTSU. He's one of the decision makers.
Yep.
This is what I would do. I would say as soon as the season ends, not the NCAA poll, but the AP poll, whoever the top 12, that's who gets in. I mean, Tulane, was it George Washington? I mean,
Close. James
Madison.
I believe they were both presidents.
Fourth president, not the first president.
I apologize. I need to know my president before I call him. But you know, that seems like that would simplify. The committee then doesn't have to go on ESPN and justify everything they did. Here it is. AP poll, top 12, you're in, period. And then Vanderbilt do their thing. And the last thing I want to mention, I really hope Diego Pavia, I hear a lot of national talk that they're looking at him more. I think that game Saturday night between Ohio State and Indiana was a defensive struggle. And I believe that helped Diego Pavia because those two quarterbacks didn't really get to shine. I know they did well, but just want to get your thoughts on that. But let's talk to Chris Massaro. Let's get him to do the 12 top teams. All right.
Thanks for the call, Edward. And we will talk Diego Pavia's Heisman case coming up later in the hour. Right now, Fernando Mendoza is the heavy favorite, but the finalists will be announced during Monday Night Countdown tonight, so right around 5:30 or 6 p.m. Central Time, so we'll find out for sure whether Diego Pavia is going to New York. But I'm not a big fan of letting the AP pick the top 12 teams.
The AP might be a little bit worse than
right.
the CFP.
It's like you look at some of those AP votes, and yes, altogether, they usually create a pretty good view of what college football looks like. But some of those voters, they don't watch every game. And I think the 12-person committee is not ideal, right? Like the committee clearly is not doing a great job. And I agree with the Notre Dame athletic director yesterday talking about just get rid of the weekly rankings because you box yourself into a corner or you have to flip-flop everything that you've been thinking just to get the right 12 teams in. Like, just reveal it. Be like the NCAA basketball selection committee and just reveal it because that way you don't have to get held to these standards that you're setting every week. I mean, they had to reveal 5 days before the selection show. It's ridiculous.
Right. No. So here's where I stand on this. I'm fine with the weekly rankings every week throughout the season because it gives some people like me something to talk about. However, with the ESPN show that they do, I do believe they need to get rid of that because the committee puts themselves in a box.
It's so stupid.
Every week. And the TV show only adds on to it. So with we talked about with the with March Madness, with college basketball, they do like a midway point, right? To like, here's an update. Here's what we're thinking midway through the season.
They say, here's our top 16.
Yep. And then they do something at the end, the big reveal. And I'd be fine if college football did that. I'd be perfectly okay with that. But I really do believe the TV show needs to go and let's burn the committee to the ground.
It's just frustrating because Miami at the end of the year played a bunch of kind of scrubs. Like they were 18 in the rankings. And then they go and beat NC State, Virginia Tech, and Pitt and somehow jump all the way up to 10. I'm not saying Miami doesn't deserve to get in, but Miami, what did they do to jump 8 spots other than Carson Beck's passing yardage that they seem to mention?
And that's the thing. Like they never should have been at the time when they moved all the way back to 18 after the SMU loss. They were 8 spots behind a Notre Dame with the same record. That never should have been the case.
Yeah.
And when they did the weekly reveal show and that came up, everybody was pointing to that. And that's something that if you eliminate the TV show, we're not talking about
right.
that.
They quote unquote punished Miami for those bad losses. But then at the end, you look and say, yeah, Miami and Notre Dame, they have a close resume. Miami had the head-to-head. I think the committee did the right thing yesterday. I think they did. If you have Miami and Notre Dame and only one gets in and one doesn't, and the resumes are so close, like they kept showing the strength of record and strength of schedule for Miami and Notre Dame, and they were one spot off. I think Notre Dame was like 43rd in strength of schedule, and Miami was 44th. And Notre Dame was 13th in strength of record, and Miami was 14th. When the margins are that small, the game on the field has to matter. And yes, it was all the way back in August.
I don't care.
But
like if it was played in a parking lot
right,
in August.
It is a head-to-head win. And when the resumes are close, you had to put Miami in. I think they did the right thing, but those weekly reveals, like Notre Dame said, gave them false confidence that they were getting rated above Miami week in and week out. And then at the last second, they pulled the rug out. If I'm looking for something, I think the committee messed up. Alabama was not punished at all for that loss to Georgia, lost 28-7. BYU, rightfully so, was kept out of the playoffs, but they dropped behind Miami because of that loss. So it's very interesting the way the committee went about this stuff. I don't think they did the right thing with Alabama. I think it probably should have been Alabama falling behind Miami, maybe even Notre Dame. But it's never
so
going to be
tough.
perfect. It's never going to be perfect. And we're going to have these conversations every single year.
Where there's humans making opinions, there's always going to be controversy.
Right.
So just because there are teams upset doesn't mean there's something wrong. I think the 12-team playoff can work, but there are tweaks that we need to make.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, with Notre Dame being 9 and Alabama being 10 for those stretch of a couple of weeks, if it were up to me, I would have had Alabama and Notre Dame switch, and the committee decided to do that, but they did it late.
Yeah.
So they put themselves in a hole. And then when they had Miami a couple spots back with BYU, and they said yesterday that the head-to-head didn't come into factor until they were right next to each other.
It's so stupid.
That was dumb. So I'm with you. I think the committee absolutely got it right with Miami being ahead of Notre Dame.
It's not king of the hill where like you have to be next to each other to compare these two teams. It's
exactly.
Like you can look and say, hey, we've got Notre Dame at 10 and we've got Miami at 12. Maybe we should look at the
That's
head-to-head.
close enough, right?
It's close
That's
enough.
That's in the 4-team comparative pool right there.
Yeah.
If
ridiculous.
You're Notre Dame, you should not be mad at the fact that you're left out of the play. You shouldn't be mad at Miami or Alabama. You should be mad at the fact that the rules state the 5 highest conference champions and 2 group of 5 teams are in ahead of you. That's what you should be mad at.
Right. Michael and Madison makes a good point too on the text line, says the precedent now is just to make your conference championship and sit your starters. Alabama not getting punished for playing like garbage is asinine. Well, I think the committee was more worried about the precedent being that conference championship games need to continue. Because if they did drop Alabama out, which I know there were people talking about, do they drop Alabama out and just put Miami and Notre Dame in? Then no one would ever play in a conference championship game again. So I guess that makes sense. 615-737-1025. Let's go back to our phone lines. Ed is on the line. Ed, thanks for calling. What you got for us?
Good morning, gentlemen. Notre Dame has done this to themselves. They consider themselves better than everybody else and on a different plane than everybody else. And it's obvious because they've had a chance to join the SEC or the Big Ten. They decided not to. They decided to put half their sports in the ACC and then put the other half of their sports in the Big Ten, which I don't know how they're able to do that, but they do. They've got their basketball team plays in the ACC, their hockey and wrestling teams over in the Big Ten. And they decided that it would be easier for them to make the playoff every year if they were independent. So they kind of done this to themselves. And then them pulling out of the playoff or pulling out of the bowl game just shows you they're like a little kid that's spoiled. When they don't get their way, they just decide to take their ball and go home. So my advice to Notre Dame, if you want to make the playoffs every year, join the SEC or the Big Ten, play some real football. And then when you win the SEC or the Big Ten, you won't have to worry about making the playoffs.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Ed. And sadly, what we know now, thanks to the report from Yahoo Sports, is that the memorandum of understanding has basically given Notre Dame a guaranteed spot if they're in the top 12. So They don't have to join a conference, sadly.
I have a thought on that, but I can get to it on the
Yeah,
other
we
side.
can do
I
it
know
on
we
the
gotta
other
get to break.
side. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. For all the listeners out there, don't go anywhere. Trey has called in, and we will get to Trey coming up next and more on the 12-team college football playoff bracket. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Reaction Monday, reacting to the 12-team college football playoff bracket, which was released yesterday. Got plenty more thoughts, but we do have to get to the phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Trey has called in. Trey, we were worried about you when we didn't hear from you late last week. How's it going?
I'm good, buddy. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
Hey, I just wanted to say, man, that, like, the way, because I'm a Vanderbilt fan. I just started, watching Vanderbilt. I love Coach Lee. I love what he has going on over there. I feel like they stamp Vanderbilt. Period. There's no cutting the cake down the line. They stamp Vanderbilt. They stamp Coach Lee. They stamp Diego Pavia. They know, and I know, and the world knows that he's the best quarterback in college football. Period. Point blank. Period. Number two, Coach Lee has the best team out there that compete with anybody. Look at that trash game we looked at the other night with Mendoza and saying, really? Really? You don't think Diego Pavia better than Mendoza? Come on. And another thing, they stopped basically history in the making, bro. Basically, none of them talking heads say, okay, we going to pull for Vanderbilt. We need to start talking about Vanderbilt, especially Kurt Herbstreit, who live in Belle Meade. All he do is talk down about the Tennessee teams. Why is he even on TV, number one? And you know what I'm saying? I'm always root for Coach Lee and Vanderbilt because they got screwed. But the thing of it is that they didn't market Diego the way that they were supposed to market Diego. He's supposed to be on TV and all of that, and they shouldn't have lost to Texas. That was a glitch, but I'm rooting for Coach Lee, and that's my team, and I love y'all, and that's pretty much all I got to say. They scammed them, and I love you guys.
Thank you for the call, Trey. Great to hear from you. Yes, it was. Trey with a rant there, and we talked about it right off the top of the hour. I wouldn't say Vanderbilt got scammed. I think that's a little bit strong. There is an argument for Vanderbilt to be left out of the playoff. The biggest reason Vanderbilt is not in the playoff is because, first of all, like Trey said, they lost a couple of games. You lose to Alabama, you lost to Texas. But also, everybody else just kept on winning down the stretch. Oklahoma was close in a couple of their games, but they were able to pull those out. They don't fall out of the bracket. Alabama on the ropes against Auburn in the second half, but they were able to pull out a win. Notre Dame was able to roll through the back end of their schedule. Miami. So a lot of it is just there were too many good teams this year. But I do agree with Trey of it was disappointing yesterday on the selection show. Vanderbilt 10-2, and they weren't discussed once. And the committee had basically told you they weren't going to get in. So I get it. I guess they weren't going to be discussed, but they should have at least been more in the conversation than they were. It should not have been a foregone conclusion heading into the selection show that they were completely out. But it was because of the way the committee had rated them over the past few weeks. 615-737-1025. We do have a 12-team college football playoff bracket. We have gone through the entire first 37 minutes of this hour without even mentioning the teams actually in there at the top. Indiana, number one team in the college football playoff bracket. Just got to give it up for Curt Cignetti and this Indiana Hoosiers team because their turnaround, as great as Vanderbilt's turnaround has been, from 2-10 to 10-2 in 2 years, Indiana from 3-9 to the number one team and the last undefeated team in the country at the end of the regular season and Big Ten champions for the first time in 80 years. I mean, unbelievable. I said it last week on Friday. I said, I think Ohio State's going to win. Ohio State is pretty clearly the more talented team, but doubt Curt Cignetti at your own risk. And here we are. Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers. I doubted them at my own risk, and they won 13-10 over Ohio State.
Hand on the Bible, I doubted them versus Oregon. I doubted them versus Ohio State, and look who has to wear the clown nose this morning.
And I have to stop myself from looking at this bracket and saying Indiana is going to play Alabama or Oklahoma, and like, man, that could be tricky. I'm going to pick Indiana to win that game because it's just
who would have thought that we would have said Alabama's going to lose to Indiana in the Rose Bowl?
Right.
What in the world?
Indiana and Alabama are going to play in a college football playoff game. Who you got? 2 years ago, that would have sounded ludicrous to even bring up. But to say that Indiana's probably going to be favored is even crazier. Georgia wins the SEC championship. Did you think that, again, it doesn't really matter because Georgia and Ohio State are 2-3. Like, it's not a big deal. Did you think Georgia should have jumped Ohio State?
I didn't have any qualms with how the CFP committee did it yesterday, other than the fact that I would have put Georgia ahead of Ohio State. One, because I feel like winning the SEC has to mean more than losing the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really splitting hairs, but I would have had Georgia ahead of Ohio State at 2-3.
Right.
And my other biggest gripe is, and I'm presenting this idea to all of Middle Tennessee, we need a separate Group of 5 playoff, because it is absolutely ludicrous that James Madison, Tulane played Ole Miss early in the season in Oxford, so we're getting a rematch.
And lost by
45-10.
Yeah, 5 touchdowns.
James Madison is going to go to Eugene and get stomped.
Yeah.
It is not a reward to win your conference, and then here's your consolation prize. You have to go play Dan Lanning in Eugene in his building and get ran through. Tulane, you remember when he played Ole Miss? Take 2, 2.0.
Back in Oxford.
It's not fair. In a hypothetical sense, UL Monroe is competing for the same trophy that Alabama is competing for. It's not fair. So let's create a separate Group of 5 playoff. I like one of our callers called in and said, just take the 12 best teams. I agree with that.
Well,
Vanderbilt may have gotten in if that were the case.
This year is disappointing because there are clearly 4 teams that could put up a good fight, and we would get great games. Like, imagine Ole Miss Notre Dame instead of Ole Miss Tulane, and Oregon Vanderbilt instead of Oregon James Madison, or Oregon and BYU, or Oregon
Vanderbilt
Texas.
going to Eugene.
Right.
Imagine that.
That'd
be
be
awesome.
Dante Moore versus
awesome.
Diego Pavia.
That'd be great.
That'd be great. But that's not how the system works.
That's the biggest gripe. Like, when I say this 12-team playoff can work, it can work. Let's just make a couple tweaks.
I said this yesterday, and I don't think the schools would agree to it. I don't think the conferences would agree to it. But in a year like this, it would be so much fun to have a 4-team NIT where Notre Dame plays Vanderbilt, BYU plays Texas, and then the winners play each other in a consolation tournament. No one would agree to it.
Notre Dame wouldn't do that.
Vanderbilt would agree to it. Vanderbilt seems to say you could put the ball down anywhere and we'll go play. But Notre Dame, pretty clearly would not agree to it. I wanted to get into them opting out of the bowl game, but that might have to wait till tomorrow. We've had a lot to talk about.
But we'll get into
it. Let's talk about that with Nick Frazier tomorrow. Coming up next, we'll wrap up the hour on college football, talking about the Heisman race, because Fernando Mendoza has moved into a heavy favorite position, depending on where you're looking. Diego Pavia is the only one really within shooting distance. We will get the finalists tonight. Who deserves to win the Heisman Trophy? We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman and Parker Kelly with you. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Next Man Up. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. Going to get back into the Titans, who won for the second time this year, 31-29 over the Browns. But one last conversation on the college football front for today. Let's get into the Heisman here. Fernando Mendoza has moved into the heavy favorite position based on betting odds and around the country where you look. But we're going to get the finalists tonight. Parker, I think if I had to guess, finalists going to be Mendoza, Pavia, Sayin, Love. I think that sounds about right.
And if there's any way that Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech could get in, I'd love that.
Yeah, if they bring 5, I think he would deserve it. But really, it comes down to a 2-man race. And it is funny. It was a little bit eye-opening for me this weekend. I had a conversation with a friend who actually is a Heisman voter. But I had a conversation with a friend, and he was saying he had to get his Heisman vote in. And I was saying, oh, Pavia's got to be up at the top, right? And he kind of was like, really? And it made me realize that around the country, I don't know if everybody's paying attention to what Diego Pavia has done this year. And I know here we talk about it and we say that he should be right up there with Mendoza. And you look at the stats, and Diego Pavia's stats are better than Fernando Mendoza's. Diego Pavia has over 4,000 total yards between passing and rushing. He's got 36 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Fernando Mendoza only has about 3,200 yards, so about 800 yards shy, and he has 39 touchdowns, so 3 more than Diego Pavia, and he also played an extra game. I think Mendoza is probably going to win because the story of bringing Indiana to a 13-0 season, and he had the moment in the national spotlight of beating the number 1 team in the country, right? Like that, you saw the odd shift. Like Diego Pavia, that entire game was the Heisman favorite. I was kind of monitoring it on Twitter because people kept tweeting out the odds. And the whole game, as Sayin and Mendoza both didn't do much offensively, Pavia was the Heisman favorite. But Mendoza makes 2 throws in the second half, the fade route to Surratt for the touchdown, and then the fade route the other way to seal the game at the end. And boom, he was basically the runaway Heisman winner. That is going to be the moment that probably does it for Fernando Mendoza. He did it on national TV in the biggest game of the year in the Big Ten Championship to take Indiana to 13-0. And I would guess he's probably going to win. But if you're looking at the stats and the impact they had on their team, Diego Pavia should be the Heisman winner. He really should. He had the better year, but I think Fernando Mendoza, based on that moment in that game against that defense, is probably going to win the trophy on Saturday.
Statistically, some of Diego Pavia's stats, actually most of them, are better than Fernando Mendoza. But it is more than stats. Clearly, stats play a huge role, but it is more than stats. And here would be my argument for Diego Pavia to win it. We all know that Fernando Mendoza left a lasting impression on the committee by throwing that fade at the end of the game to Charlie Becker to winning the Big Ten championship.
The quote-unquote Heisman moment.
Right. And I sat there and like, it was a great throw. And, you know, it helped them clinch the Big Ten championship game, but it was a very simple concept. A lot of quarterbacks can make that throw. I would argue his Heisman moment was the Penn State game because that was a very, very impressive drive.
Right.
But what Diego Pavia has done, not many quarterbacks could do. He has elevated Vanderbilt to a level in which we are talking about them on the outside looking in of the college football playoff, and he single-handedly changed the direction of the entire program. Fernando Mendoza has played a role in turning Indiana around.
Right,
because
but they went 11-1 last year.
Right. They're the second losingest all-time program in college football. But they had Curtis Rourke last year, and he kind of helped kickstart that thing. Yeah. Fernando Mendoza's played a huge role in that, but Diego Pavia has done it by himself. Right. That's my argument.
And I just look at the stats, and it's pretty hard to argue that Mendoza's had a better year than Diego Pavia. But again, I think it's a national award. You have voters from all over the country, and I would say most of them were watching that game, right? Like most of them probably tuned in and said, Sayin and Mendoza are 2 of the top 3 Heisman candidates. We need to watch this game and to help us make a decision. Do you think they were doing that for every game for Vanderbilt? Like Tennessee, yeah, that was on national television, of course, but it was at 3:30 going alongside a couple of other big games. I don't think Diego Pavia had his opportunity in the limelight to prove he deserves to win the Heisman. And Mendoza made enough plays down the stretch to win that game, and they were able to win it. And Dustin from Hopkinsville says, I'll say this, Mendoza sat in a lot of fourth quarter games because the game was over. He had already won it. Pavia only finished, I think, 7 of the 12 games
Same
this
thing.
year.
Vanderbilt buzzsawed the teams outside of Alabama.
Right.
And,
like Diego Pavia,
Texas.
I don't think played in the second half at all against Charleston Southern. Definitely didn't play the or in the fourth quarter against Georgia State and Utah State. Didn't play in the fourth quarter against Kentucky. And there was one more game he didn't finish. Virginia Tech, maybe, because that game got out of hand pretty quickly in the second half. So, yeah, I mean, sure, Mendoza, he maybe didn't play quite as much. Let's see. He had 316 attempts. Diego Pavia had 340. And actually, Fernando Mendoza played more snaps than Diego Pavia did. So there you go. Not saying that that should be a factor. Like, you've got to look, you got to watch the games and see who had the better season. I think Diego Pavia had the better season, but at this point, it looks like Fernando Mendoza is going to win.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Although I think this is going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those Heisman ceremonies where you don't know until they say the name, right? Like, there are plenty of years where it's a runaway and the guy who wins it, you knew it all along. Marcus Mariota in 2014. I mean, running away with it. Derrick Henry. Like, those types of years where the season is so good that you know it heading into the Heisman ceremony, and the other guys who get invited to New York are just happy to be there. That's not what this is going to be on Saturday. Yes, I think Fernando Mendoza is going to win it, but I don't think we're going to know until the name gets read. It could very well be Diego Pavia.
I just want to know what the national perception is, because if you watch the Fox broadcasts, you know, Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, they're, give him the Heisman now. And they showed a Heisman graphic, and it was between Julian Sayin and Fernando Mendoza. Right. But then you go to On3, who's probably one of the more respected college sites, and Diego Pavia won their On3 Heisman poll. So I saw several Heisman voters tweet out that this is one of the years where no candidate really screams Heisman to you. So it may be one of those things where we don't know until the name's called.
No, this is right. one of those years where likely whoever wins it wouldn't win it most years. But that's how the award goes. I heard Desmond Howard saying on Saturday he thinks that no one should get the Heisman. That's kind of ridiculous. He said no one's deserving of it. Yeah, he said on Saturday morning, he was like, yeah, Pavia and Mendoza and Sayin, they're all fine, but the Heisman should be reserved for like special seasons, and no one's having that. He said that they should just not give it away this year, which is ridiculous. But I just think it is funny that this is the stat line for Fernando Mendoza that's going to win him the Heisman, because Diego Pavia, for a majority of that game, was the Heisman favorite. 15 of 23 for 222 yards, a touchdown, a pick, took 3 sacks, ran for -3 yards, and no touchdowns. Like, he won the game, not taking anything away. He made enough plays to win the game against the best team in the country that we all have talked about as the most talented team in the country by far. Won the game. Fernando Mendoza deserves to be in the top 2 for the Heisman candidate, but that one throw or those 2 throws, is that really enough to overcome the nearly 1,000-yard difference in stats between Pavia and Mendoza? I don't know. And again, the question we'll always ask is, if you put Mendoza on Vanderbilt, do they go 10-2? If you put Pavia on Indiana, do they still go 13-0? I think those are the questions you have to ask. But the ballots are due coming up in about 6 hours, 4, 5, 6 hours, somewhere in there this afternoon. And we will get the finalists coming up this evening. Would be a shocker if Diego Pavia isn't at least invited to New York. I think it's down to him and Mendoza, and we'll find out on Saturday evening who ends up taking home the hardware. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Back into the Titans after this. The Titans did win the game, and we spent the first hour talking about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, but there were a lot of things that did go right for the Titans. We'll talk about that in the final hour. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Final hour on this Monday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Been a fun show. Flown by through these first 2 hours. Talk some Titans, talk some college football. We're getting back into the two-tone blue here as they got a win yesterday, snapping a 7-game losing streak. Titans 31-29 over the Cleveland Browns. And we spent most of the first hour talking about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders because, of course, that is where the eyes go when you see the Browns and Titans play yesterday. But the reason the Titans won didn't have much to do with Cam Ward yesterday. And there are a lot of things that went right for the Titans. I want to start with Jeffrey Simmons. I don't think we've given Jeffrey Simmons enough credit for what he's done this year. Heading into the season, I remember when he was ranked 4th on the best defensive tackles survey that ESPN does every year of the scouts, the execs, the coaches. They poll all of them and they put together a top 10 list at every position. And Jeffrey Simmons was ranked 4th. And I remember Titans fans being kind of upset about that, saying, what has he done to deserve being ranked 4th? He hasn't been the impact elite player that we kind of expected him to be after that 2021 season. I mean, when he had 3 sacks in that playoff game that we don't like to speak of, I think the expectation was that he was going to turn into Chris Jones or a player of that caliber. And the last 2 years, he hasn't really been that. And injuries have factored in there. This year, Jeffrey Simmons has been exactly what the Tennessee Titans have needed him to be. He has stepped up as a leader. I think the maturity issues have, for the most part, gone away, and he is dominating on the field. I mean, there were a couple plays in yesterday's game where you just had to laugh at Jeffrey Simmons throwing a 300-plus pound man into a running back, like on the trap play that they ran at the goal line, where they tried to trap and pull a guard, and Jeffrey Simmons just ran inside him and threw him into the running back to stuff the play. And the sack that he had on Shedeur Sanders, I mean, he made the center look silly as he came around the outside on that little game that they ran. So Jeffrey Simmons, I just want to give some flowers to him because it's been a tough season, and a player of his caliber, I think very rightfully so, and in a lot of scenarios would have asked out. How many times have we seen that with really good players on really bad teams? They usually don't stick around very often. Myles Garrett, I guess we saw him yesterday. He would be one of the exceptions, but he did ask out, and then they paid him enough money to want back in. Jeffrey Simmons has not tried to request a trade, at least to any of our knowledge. He has been a leader in the locker room. He's holding people accountable, and he's making plays on the field. Just want to shout out Jeffrey Simmons. And I was actually one of the people who thought trading him might be a good idea at the trade deadline. You know, the way this team is built right now and the amount of holes that you have, I thought maybe the draft capital would be more valuable than Jeffrey Simmons. And obviously it depends on what you're able to do in the next couple of years, because Jeffrey Simmons' prime isn't going to last forever. But if you don't keep him around, I think that locker room could have devolved into chaos real quick. I mean, Cam Ward is a leader, and he's trying to be a leader, but he's still a rookie. And without Jeffrey Simmons, I don't know if there's a voice in that locker room that could have held everything together when Brian Callahan got fired. And I just want, again, just got to give some flowers to Jeffrey Simmons. He has stepped up in a major way this season when a lot of people were questioning him and his leadership and his ability on the field. He has been nothing short of exactly what the Titans needed this season.
I'm under the understanding that all 31 teams inquired about Jeffrey Simmons, but he told the Titans that he wanted to be part of the rebuild. So I have nothing but respect, and I would have completely understood if he would have wanted to be traded to another team to try to go win. With the dysfunction behind the scenes in the organization, I completely would have understood. But it does make me respect Jeffrey Simmons in that aspect. I think the maturity issues have gone away for the most part, like you said, and he's really stepped up and been the voice that the Titans needed. He changed his body in the offseason, and you could tell that it's really paying off. So he's been as advertised, if not a little bit more, which has been awesome for the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought yesterday the defensive player who had the biggest impact on the game was probably Jeffrey Simmons? I mean, he made play after play, and He got called for a penalty at one point. Was he offsides, neutral zone infraction, something like that? And then immediately backed it up by blowing up the next play. Uh, I want to just give him credit because it's tough for a player of that caliber to be on a team like this. Basically 3 years in a row. Like that was the 11th win in over 3 years for the Titans. And we'll see on Sunday. They've got the 49ers on the road coming off a bye, but the Titans get another chance to snap their streak of losing after a win, which they have done every time since November of 2022. So over 3 years since their last consecutive wins. They have a chance to snap it. Don't feel great about it on the road against the 49ers, but that's how bad this team has been over the last 3 years. And most players who are getting paid as much as Jeffrey Simmons and who are as good as Jeffrey Simmons would have asked for a trade. I mean, you look at Quinnen Williams. I don't know if Quinnen Williams asked for a trade, but clearly he was okay with the trade. Same draft class as Jeffrey Simmons and had been with the Jets, had signed a long-term extension. But at some point it gets to the point where you're fed up with losing. And Jeffrey Simmons has committed to this team. He's committed to the community. And I'm excited to see him on hopefully a more capable team next year.
Yeah, no, we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to see what Borgonzi does in the draft. I'm excited to see if the Titans trade and are able to acquire more picks. I'm excited to see how it all goes. The question that I have, by the time this team is able to be competitive, which I would assume if everything goes their way, 2027, will Jeffrey Simmons still be in his prime?
Right, and that's the question. You have gambled on Jeffrey Simmons being able to continue to play at a high level for the next 3 to 4 seasons, right? Like by not trading him, you are basically saying we believe that he can continue to be a dominant force on our defensive line, at least until I would say, 2027, 2028. Can you continue to get that out of him? You look back at Jarrell Casey when he was with the Titans, and Jarrell Casey, as good of a player as he was never the player Jeffrey Simmons is right now. Like Jarrell Casey was a Pro Bowl level player. Jeffrey Simmons is putting up all pro level numbers right now. And I wonder if you get to the point with Jeffrey Simmons of where you do have to kind of let him walk for nothing. But if he can be one of those key pillars to get this team back to being a respectable team in the NFL, I think it's worth what you could have gotten in a trade. But we'll see. They've got to they have to be able to build this roster. And you would think if Jeffrey Simmons is sticking around that they have at least portrayed a plan to him to show how they're going to get this thing right. Because I don't think Jeffrey Simmons is willingly signing up to go 4-13 next year and then 6-10 the year after, or 6-11. I think they have at least given him a plan of, hey, here's what we see ourselves doing in the next couple off seasons to try and get this thing right. And Simmons has signed up for it. He has done his job to the best of his ability at this point. And I just wanted to give a segment to Jeffrey Simmons because he doesn't get enough credit.
He deserves his flowers.
Right, for what he has done on a horrible team this year. And he was a big reason the Titans got the win yesterday. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We've touched on the offensive line today. I want to get back into the offensive line because we challenged them last week. I said, J.C. Latham, they are calling you out. What are you going to do, 55? And not saying J.C. Latham had some sort of all-pro game yesterday, but the offensive line did not let Myles Garrett dominate that game. And it's not just the offensive line, too. Lots of people helped out in limiting Myles Garrett's production yesterday in Cleveland. We'll talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly. Reaction Monday. Titans win 31-29 over the Browns yesterday. Titans are 2-11. This is the type of music you need Connor Newton in the building for.
Oh, we're getting a little white girlish.
Yeah,
today.
a little crossover there as we continue to get in the Christmas spirit to start off the week. Titans get the win, and I know some people may be unhappy about that. Draft position is important, and we will get into the draft situation towards the end of the show. But I do want to continue to give credit to the people that made the win happen. And the offensive line yesterday came out, and they were good. That was a good offensive line performance yesterday. They opened up holes in the run game. Tony Pollard running for 165 yards. Yes, he deserves credit for that. But I think the big issue in the run game has been they've really struggled to move people and get up to the second level. And that's why you saw that game against, was it Seattle, where Cam Ward ran for more yards than both Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Like they could not run the football at all. And yesterday, Tony Pollard, he had his as TD tweeted, he had his get somewhere shoes on that 65-yard run. I did not expect to see the breakaway speed from Tony Pollard there. Ended up with 2 touchdowns on the day. That was great to see from Tony Pollard. But the offensive line deserves a lot of credit. And we might need to start having the conversation of, even when Lloyd Cushenberry is healthy, do you want him in there over Corey Levin? Because Corey Levin has come in, and the Titans have had 2 pretty solid rushing days since Lloyd Cushenberry got hurt. I think at the very least, it makes you think, hey, we could move on from Lloyd Cushenberry in the offseason and try and find somebody else. Whether you think Jackson Slater fits better at center than guard, or if it is somebody like Levin. But I don't know if Lloyd Cushenberry has been holding back the Titans' run game, but it feels like a little bit more than a coincidence that as soon as he's out of the lineup, the Titans' run game finally hits its stride.
Yeah, and Corey Levin had a huge block on that big long run by Tony Pollard, the 65-yarder, that looked really, really good. So he did a great job. Now, as far as the contract, I know it's a 3-year deal that Lloyd Cushenberry got. The Titans should be able to get out of that, right? If they want.
Let's see. What would the out be on the Lloyd? I would think so, right? If it was a 3-year deal, might have been a 4-year deal.
Because if you can move off of Calvin Ridley technically after this year, you can move off of L'Jarius Sneed technically after this year. I wonder how they set up the Lloyd Cushenberry deal.
The out, you would save $3 million against the cap. So not a ton. $9 million in dead cap, 12.5 in cap hit. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a conversation for people who know more about offensive line play than I do. But at least just from the naked eye, Corey Levin steps in and he has elevated this run game in a way. So I do want to give Corey Levin some credit. And the tackles, Dan Moore and J.C. Latham, they had a lot of help yesterday. And that shouldn't take away from the fact that they were pretty good. 1 sack against Cam Ward yesterday. Probably should have been 2 if it wasn't for Cam Ward sending Grant Delpit through the crust of the earth as he was trying to tackle him.
Talk about something to get you hyped.
I mean, that was it's funny. Cam Ward, maybe the 2 touchdown passes were good. The next biggest highlight might have been his incomplete pass where he rolls out, throws Grant Delpit off him, and gets it into the sideline. That was really well done. But only the 1 sack. Myles Garrett, they ran a stunt for him. He got around the outside. He got a sack. That's going to happen. But overall, the Titans offensive line did a great job against Myles Garrett. Second lowest pass rush win rate of his career. Lowest this season. That's tough to do. That is really tough to do against a player like Myles Garrett, who now has 20 sacks this season. They did get help. I just saw a clip. I don't know if you've seen this, Parker. It was Brandon Thorne who tweeted it out on Twitter of the chip from Alec Iamaner on a certain play. No,
I haven't seen it yet.
That is Myles Garrett. That Alec Iamaner is lined up in the slot, and he chips him and just throws him on his ass. And Alec Iamaner, known for being a good blocker at Stanford, and right there, that was impressive. I mean, he took Myles Garrett completely out of the play. You need that against a player like him. You need others to help out your tackles. You're not just going to line up, hey, man door, as they call him on Robbie and Rex Road, versus Myles Garrett one-on-one. You got it, Dan. Go block him. you got to give him help. And the tight ends and the wide receivers did a really nice job of helping him out. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. On the text line, Tim in Nashville asked, did y'all just call Mariah Carey white girl music? That was Ariana Grande, actually.
Whoa. How are we getting the two confused there?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Christmas music. You can make an assumption. 2349 says, not only is it not a coincidence that the run game was established when he was in there, it was also against the number 2 defense in the league. And that's a good point, that the Titans run game could not do anything for most of this season. And I was putting a lot of the blame on Tony Pollard, and maybe that was wrong. It just didn't look good from Tony Pollard. Even when he did have a hole, there was no burst through it. And the maximum that you could expect from Tony Pollard was like a 7 to 8 yard run. That's basically what you would, a good run from Tony Pollard. You're like, all right, he kept us in front of the chains. He had some bursts yesterday. He did. And I like to see it, but the offensive line deserves a lot of credit too, with Corey Levin stepping in there. Dustin from Hopkinsville said, you might have the conversation, whoever gets hired as the head coach, keep Denard Wilson. He coached the hell out of this patchwork defense. That's true. I think Denard Wilson at least deserves an interview from whoever comes in. It depends on who you hire, right? Like, if you bring in Robert Saleh, I don't know if Denard Wilson is going to want to be the Robin to his Batman, because Robert Saleh is probably going to run your defense, or at the very least have a very large impact on the defense. But yeah, if you bring in Mike McCarthy, I think at the very least, like, Denard Wilson deserves an interview there.
I think he's the favorite. Him and Matt Nagy. Those are the names that I've heard the most from people.
Yeah, and the interviews should start in the next month, and I'm excited to see what the Titans have been doing for the last 2 months since they fired Brian Callahan to prepare for this.
Seems like we've been doing this every year for the last 4 years. It's almost a routine at this point, that just expect a major hire to be made with the Tennessee Titans.
That's true. This is now, is it 4 years in a row?
4 years in a row.
4 years in a row that we've gone into the offseason saying, all right, who are they going to hire now?
Well, yeah, and this is the 5th hire that they would have made that's big, so I guess it's 5 years.
Yeah.
Vrabel, Callahan out, Robinson and Carthon out. So, yeah, number 5.
Justin from Greenbrier says, Justin, he puts his name. I know fans don't want this team to be in the mushy middle, but I want them to win some games. It's been some depressing seasons and some hard times being a Titans fan lately. Personally, I want them to beat San Francisco and Kansas City, put it together, and ride that wave into next year. I don't think it's going to happen. So that's why I'm kind of in the train of, if they lose out, they get the 2nd overall pick at worst. But I do understand that if they do get on a little bit of a roll here, which again, very unlikely, it could be what they need heading into the offseason, right? Last year or 2 years ago, me and TD were pointing to the Lions season from a few years ago. They started like 4-8 and then won their last 5 games of the season. And then boom, they were in the NFC Championship game next year. It wouldn't be like that because the Titans aren't 4-8. They're 2-11, but there is something to be said for finishing on a high note in the season and being able to take some confidence into the offseason as you try and get ready for 2026. I can see it both ways. And again, during the 3 hours that the Titans are playing on Sundays, I'm rooting for them to win. But I also understand that the best thing for this franchise is probably for them to lose. Bob on the text line, seems to me both teams tried to lose that game at the end, giving up 2 late touchdowns, not running back the 2-point extra points, going for two-point extra points, screwing up the 2-point conversions. The Browns just did a better job. It's a fair point because it did seem like at the end, neither team wanted to win. Cedric Gray, was he just out of gas on that 2-point conversion? Right. I mean, I guess so. But if he takes that back, the game's over. Ends up opening the door for Cleveland. Now, I have no problem with Kevin Stefanski going for 2 on both of those. That is what the analytics tell you to do. And I referenced in the first hour the Dolphins game for the Titans back in 2023, where they were down 14 late. They went for 2 the first time, they got it, and then they were able to just kick the extra point and win it when they got the second touchdown. That is the goal there. If you don't get it the first time, you still have the opportunity to go for it again. It just so happens they fumbled the snap the first time and then ran maybe one of the worst plays I've ever
My
seen.
gosh, terrible. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Taking Shedeur Sanders off the field there, I mean, that is coaching malpractice. And not because Shedeur Sanders is Tom Brady, but
He is, according to Justine Anderson.
yes, but you just limit your options there running that Wildcat play. And I don't know, was it Quinshon Judkins who had the ball or was it Dylan Sampson? Who I think it was Judkins, who clearly was supposed to pitch it back, but decided not to and ended up having no chance at it. So, yeah, the coaches weren't great at the end there. Mike McCoy had another faux pas where he called a timeout that negated a third down conversion for the Titans. And for Mike McCoy, he has to feel like he's, damned if you do, damned if you don't, because it was the same situation as last week when we got on him because the play clock ran down on a third down and he took the delay of game and moved you back to 3rd and 8. He took the timeout to make sure that didn't happen, ended up taking away a third down conversion. And then guess what? It was 3rd and 8 anyway because JC Latham false started. So it ended up backfiring on him. Again, for Mike McCoy, I can't bash him for that because we bashed him for not calling the timeout last week. It just so happened that we got to see the play and it ended up hurting the team. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll continue to take your thoughts on this Reaction Monday. We got a couple more segments and we will continue to talk Titans. On the other side, Bones Fossil, please don't leave. We'll do it next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up. We got two more segments. Chase and Big Joe are coming up. And again, they are live out at the Duncan in Brentwood, the toy drive going on out there. So the Duncan in Brentwood on Thoroughbred Lane, if you want to go out there and donate some toys, they'll be out there from 12 to 3. Again, that's coming up in just about 30 minutes. Before we get into the draft scenarios, because I know that's what a lot of people want to talk about, where do the Titans stand in the draft as they fell to the third spot as of right now after their win yesterday? But one more person to shout out from yesterday's win, and that is John Bones Fossil, who has revolutionized the special teams units for the Titans in his first season here. I am begging the powers that be over there at St. Thomas Sports Park, please do not let Bones Fossil leave the building at the end of this year. And part of the special team success is, of course, Chimdike joining. Like, you don't return punts for touchdowns without having a really good punt returner. And Chimdike has been the best punt returner in the NFL this season. But this is a team that had not done anything of note on a punt outside of fumbling in 13 years. No punt returns for a touchdown, no punt blocks in 13 years. They've got 3 of them in the last 5 games. 2 punt returns for touchdowns, really could have been 3 because of the trip on Logan Cook from last week that didn't get called. Really could have been 4 on the season because of that block in the back call against the Rams. So, Bones Fossil, I'm begging you. I know you might have other offers out there. You're under contract. Maybe you don't want to be in Nashville anymore. I'm begging you, stick around. Give the next coaching staff a chance because the special teams have never been better, at least since I've been a fan, at least over the last 10 years. The special teams have not looked like this. That block punt really was the difference in that game, right? The game ends 31-29. Titans were on 28 points right there. They blocked the punt. They kicked the field goal. That ends up winning you the game. The Titans special teams, it is a completely different unit than what we saw under Craig Aukerman and Colt Anderson. And it depends on who you hire. There might be guys who have their own guys in mind for special teams, but I think in the interviews for these head coaching candidates, not that it's the end all be all, you can find a good special teams coordinator, but Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker, when they're interviewing these head coaching candidates, should be pushing, hey, if you come in here, would you keep Bones Fossil? Because the special teams has been really the lone consistent bright spot of this Titans team during this horrible season.
Yeah, no, Bones Fossil. And I go back to the fact that he believed Chimdike wasn't ready to return punts close to the season, and look at how he's kind of transformed him and the blocking. And like, it seems like there have been really across the entire league, a lot of big special teams plays, whether that be block PATs, block field goals, returns. There was a return for the Jets yesterday, but what Bones Fossil has been able to do to transform this special teams unit to get not 1, but 2 punt returns in the same season, maybe even 3 if there wasn't a penalty. It's been incredible.
Right.
Got to keep him.
And Chimdike didn't have a touchdown yesterday in special teams. He did have a touchdown through the air, but he set up that first drive. The Titans finally scored an opening drive touchdown for the first time this year. They were the last team in the NFL that hadn't done it. TD and I were making that comment last week, and they finally did it, but it's mostly because Chimdike let you start at the 47-yard line because of his return. Special teams, a lot of it, I think, is just, can you have a net positive of good plays versus bad plays? Most special team plays are just neutral, right? You fair catch a punt, a kickoff goes for a touchback, you make a field goal. Those are the neutral plays for special teams. But if you can have a net positive of good plays versus bad plays, because special teams can change the game one way or another. If you have a disastrous play, like you muff a punt or you get a field goal blocked, versus the other end of those, you return a punt for a touchdown, you block a punt. The Titans have had infinitely more positive plays this year than negative plays. Have the Titans had a I guess Chimdike fumbled on the kickoff last week against Jacksonville. And then the play he got hurt on against Houston where he dropped the punt, they ended up getting the ball back. So I don't even know if I would establish that as a bad play for the Titans outside of Chimdike getting hurt. So, you miss a couple field goals here and there, but really the only disastrous play I can point to for the Titans is you fumbled a kickoff last week against Jacksonville.
Man, think about all the special teams blunders we can
Right.
name before. I mean, they were just, it seemed every week, just constantly.
Right.
Bones Fossil really doesn't get enough credit.
I would say
He's been awesome.
On average, the Titans special teams for the last 13 years, it's like you're averaging a -1 in terms of net positive and negative special teams plays per game. It's like every game you'd have one thing go wrong on special teams that hurts you, and nothing would ever be a huge play to get you set up in field position or to score a touchdown. And to come into this year where it feels like every single game you're talking about one or two plays on special teams that helps the Titans get in position to score or score points and put points on the board. Yesterday, you had the kickoff that set up the first drive. You only had to go 53 yards for the touchdown. And then you block a punt that helps you win the game. Bones Fossil, you got to stick around. And the Titans have to do everything they can to make him stick around. 3337 on the text line asks, I don't know much about special teams coordinators, but was Bones just on the street when we hired him? So Bones was part of the Cowboys staff under Mike McCarthy, and they just let all of their contracts expire, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, I don't think Mike McCarthy was fired last year by Dallas, but they just let his contract expire. I believe the same thing happened with Bones Fossil, and I could be wrong on this, but he was on Dallas's staff last year. He has been a well-known special teams coordinator across the league. Titans brought him in, and again, Brian Callahan's gone. I don't know. It makes me wonder how much of a Callahan decision it was to bring on Bones Fossil, because it could have been a front office decision of, hey, Colt Anderson was not very good last year. He was inexperienced. Let's go bring in the most experienced guy on the market in Bones Fossil. And Brian Callahan said, okay, that sounds good to me. I do wonder if it was any kind of connection with Callahan and if Fossil is going to want to go somewhere else, or if this was an organizational thing of let's go bring in Bones Fossil and it didn't have much to do with Callahan. If it's the latter, I would feel pretty good about him sticking around on the next coaching staff.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know the answer to that question, but I know. And think about it. Think about how long it took for Brian Callahan to fire Colt Anderson. We thought it should have been done a lot sooner than it was, maybe even during the season. But it took him a while, even after the season. And the fact that they were able to go out and get him, I don't know the answer. I hope Bones Fossil came because he wanted to be a part of what the Titans are building and he wants to live in Nashville. I hope that's the reason, but I don't know.
Yeah, and we'll see. That'll be something to keep an eye on once the Titans make their next head coaching hire. But Bones Fossil, I'm putting it out there. Please stay. If you're out there listening, please stick around. The Titans special teams has somehow turned from maybe the worst in the league for 10 straight years to one of the best in the league overnight. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Last call for phones if you have any more thoughts. When we come back, the Titans did win yesterday, which needed a win, but it does drop them in the draft order. We'll talk about what that looks like with 4 weeks left to go in the year. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. It's a good one to end on here.
I actually don't remember this song. I know it's from The Grinch.
So this is the one that Betty Lou Who sings. It doesn't sound nearly as good as this one.
Yeah, this is Faith
This
Hill.
is Faith Hill, yeah. I always kind of laugh at that letting her sing that
okay.
song.
No. Yeah.
It's very
I just
pitchy.
didn't recognize it with Faith Hill singing it.
Right. No, I haven't watched The Grinch yet this year. This might be.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
No,
that's
good
a
point.
tonight thing. Monday. Oh, we got
Monday Night Football. Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. Yeah, Tuesday could be a good day for a Christmas movie.
Also need to watch Home Alone at some point.
Got to watch Elf, Christmas Vacation.
I watched Elf over Thanksgiving, so I have that one checked. Christmas Vacation, yes.
I've been bad with Christmas stuff so far. This is getting me in the Christmas spirit. All of our music today. 615-737-1025. Last call for phones. We got a few more minutes with you on this Monday before Chase and Big Joe take over. Did want to mention some breaking news from Pete Thamel. Tim Banks has parted ways with Tennessee, or should say the other way around. Tennessee has parted ways with defensive coordinator Tim Banks. I know that's something a lot of Vols fans were hoping for. So Tim Banks no longer with the Vols, and they will search for a new defensive coordinator. That coming out in just the last 15 minutes or so. Anyway, did want to finish the show looking at the draft order. Titans winning yesterday, taking themselves out of the number 1 overall pick, which they held on to heading into the week, now falling to 3rd. 3 teams at the top, all tied at 2-11. The New York Giants, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Tennessee Titans. The Titans have the hardest strength of schedule in the entire league, which is the first tiebreaker. I know I've seen some people out there in the Twitterverse talking about, well, how can Tennessee be behind the Raiders when they lost to Las Vegas? That's not the first tiebreaker. The first tiebreaker is strength of schedule. So the Titans right now have a 573 strength of schedule, Vegas 548, the Giants 534. So Titans likely going to lose any tiebreaker when you look around the league. Arizona's strength of schedule is right around there. So there's a chance they could win that one. But the Titans, if they are tied with the same amount of wins as another team, they are probably going to be picking behind them, if that makes sense. But the good news for the Titans is the Giants and Raiders play each other at the end of the year. So one of those 2 teams is going to get another win unless, and this is the best scenario for the Titans. Very unlikely. Best scenario, a Giants and Raiders tie in week 17 would absolutely do wonders for the Titans draft hopes, because then the tiebreaker doesn't come into play. And if the Titans were to just not win another game, which it's possible, they would get the number 1 overall pick. Just putting that out there. A tie is what you're rooting for.
Truthfully, I don't care about the number 1 overall pick. I just want to win.
Well, I do care about it. Like, it is important.
I want picks.
The Titans winning.
I want plenty of them.
The Titans winning the games they can win, I think, is important for this team. They have to prove that they can win football games. That is an important thing for a young football team, is learning how to win games. They won the game yesterday. They have a chance against the Saints. The Saints aren't very good, and that game is in Nashville, although the Titans haven't won in Nashville in well over a year now. And the Saints did win yesterday against the Buccaneers, but that's a winnable game. Somehow the Chiefs game is starting to look more winnable after their loss last night. That offense is just not very good for the Chiefs. But I agree with you. I'm rooting for the Titans to win every time they're on the football field. But if you're looking at the number 1 overall pick, which is important, if the Titans were able to get it and able to trade out of it, Fernando Mendoza has regained steam as the possible number 1 overall pick. Dante Moore is gaining steam as the number 2 overall pick. If you can get yourself into the top 2, it gives you a very good chance to trade out and gain a ton of draft capital. I look back at 2016 with Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. Those guys weren't widely regarded as these elite prospects coming out, but as the draft process went along, those guys established themselves as worthy of the top 2 picks in the draft, allowing the Titans and Browns to trade out for hauls. I think that's probably what this is going to look like with Mendoza and Moore or Simpson or whoever it ends up being. I think there are going to be 2. And if the Titans can get into the top 2, which they are on track to do, I think they will have an opportunity to trade out and get that influx of draft capital that they've been looking for.
Because I've always been worrisome of, well, how big is the market going to be if the Titans do end up getting the number 1 overall pick? They had the number 1 overall pick last year with 3 wins, so it's ultimately going to play out how it's going to play out. If the Titans truly are the worst team in the NFL, then yesterday's win really won't matter by the time we get to the end of the season, because they could still have it. And even if you get a top 3 pick, you should be able to trade it and acquire more picks. So it's not like if the Titans don't get the first overall pick, it's the end of the world.
Right. And I look at it this way. The Giants are probably not taking a quarterback first overall, so they would probably look to trade. Vegas could. So getting in front of Vegas, I think, would be important. But then there's a ton of teams in that top 10 that are probably looking for a quarterback. The Saints need a quarterback. The Jets desperately need a quarterback. I think Arizona is going to move on from Kyler Murray after this season. And if I'm looking around the league, the team that might need Kyler Murray the most, the Indianapolis Colts, after Daniel Jones tore his Achilles yesterday, because he's probably done for all of next year, which you hate it for Daniel Jones because he was on track to go get himself a big contract extension, but the Colts can't tie themselves to him not knowing if he's going to play at all next year. They're in big trouble because they don't have a first-round pick in either of the next 2 drafts either. So I think their options are going to be Kyler Murray or maybe Will Levis for the Colts next year. Would the Titans trade him in division? I don't know, but I think that would be the 2 guys that the Colts
on
might
how
be
good the
able to
offer
look at.
is.
Right.
I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
But anyway,
I mean, they don't believe in Will Levis anyway.
Yeah.
So
Arizona probably needs a quarterback. Here's one I've said before, the Rams at 9 with the Falcons pick. Could they want to move up and get a quarterback of the future? So there are going to be some suitors who need a quarterback. Miami at 12 might want to move on from Tua. There's going to be some suitors who have picks who want to come up. Titans are going to be fine. Even if they don't get the number 1 overall pick, they're going to be fine. Worst case scenario, you get an elite player at the top of the draft, which not as valuable as multiple first-round picks, of course, but you can still get an elite player who can help this team rebuild at the top of the draft. And that's important too. Been a fun show today.
Lots to talk about. No shortage. I feel like we could go 7 hours today with all the news breaking.
This might have been the fastest show, like in my mind, of the year. I mean, we blew through all the topics today and actually didn't get to all of them. We have plenty more to get to tomorrow. Nick Frazier is going to be with us. We're going to talk about Notre Dame opting out of a bowl game and all of the drama from that. Tennessee and Vanderbilt also have their bowl games. We will talk about their placements and more Titans, of course. The Titans are 2-11 now. They get ready for the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday. Keegan on the line. Sorry we couldn't get to you today. We'll get to you tomorrow if you call back in. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. Nick Frazier going to be on with us tomorrow. Going to be a very fun show. And then, of course, throughout the week, we'll have Corey Curtis, Teron Davenport, Max Hers on Friday, and much more. Going to be a great week on the station. Chase and Big Joe have you from Duncan in Brentwood for the toy drive coming up next. Keep it right here on 102.5 The Game.